Three, two, one. Welcome back to another topic. AT Talks. We're on topic 2. Topic 1 was introductions. Topic 2 is burnout. We're going to try to keep this more positive. We have 3 people here today besides myself. We have Victoria, we have Ed, and we have Dan. So we're going to try to keep this positive, and we're going to discuss either how we handled our burnout and how we got back to our normal selves, or how we prevent burnout the best we can. So if you guys just want to quickly introduce yourself, go ahead.
So I'm Dan. I'm the athletic trainer at Hebron High School and through Community Care Network in Northwest Indiana.
I'm Victoria. I don't know if you guys can hear me. I got some crazy internet going on in here.
Yes, you do. I didn't get any of that.
Hey, hold on just one second. I'm going to actually switch computers. Let me go to my work computer and see if that works real quick. So I'm going to stay on here until I can log in.
Sounds great. Ed?
Yeah, and I'm Ed Wozniakevich. I'm an athletic trainer up at Castleton University in Castleton, Vermont.
So we have Vermont, we have 2 Indianas, and we have California. Victoria, are you California? Are you in Indy? Where are you at?
Texas.
Texas. All right, so you're down there with Bryce. Bryce is in Texas. Jeremy's in Texas. All right, so burnout. Have we all experienced some form of burnout before?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's start with, for sure. All right.
Yeah.
Let's start with, hey, how you doing? I'm doing a video. Let's start with my security maintenance. Let's start with, what do you guys do to try to prevent burnout?
I'll start. With me, prevention, I mean, it's kind of hard because with me, when I get into periods where I feel burnt out, like right now we're going through crossover here up at Castleton where our winter sports are winding down, but our spring sports are winding up. So I've been having 6 a.m. lacrosse practices and then having 5 to 6 p.m. women's basketball practices and not time to go home. So it's kind of like I just kind of react to the situation. So prevention is kind of hard. Trying to find time to myself. This year it's been more difficult because I just became a new father last spring. So I'm trying to figure out, thank you, navigating fatherhood with athletic training. So it's a little bit different. So prevention, I mean, trying to take time for myself just to wind down, which, like I said, has changed drastically in the past year. But I try and woodwork. It's kind of my hobby where I just kind of put everything out of my mind. That's how I would try and prevent it by doing more, but that's not happening. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I think for us, the best thing from a preventative standpoint is kind of establishing clear set boundaries and time frames throughout your day. Obviously, it's a little bit easier for me at the high school setting than it is at the collegiate setting, just by the nature of the beast. So, for example, during the winter times and spring times, I don't really cover Saturday practices.
Shoot arounds.
So I pretty much, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. All right. My microphone's doing some weird stuff here. So I pretty much just kind of set those boundaries. So if they're doing Saturday stuff, I just kind of make it clear of when I'm going to be there, when I'm not going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
That they understand that and that they can reach me.
Yeah.
As well as, just kind of being comfortable with saying no when you feel like you need to. When you're getting to that point of feeling burned out and exhausted, communicating with those around you so that, like, I need this time. I need to, not travel with basketball tonight if there's going to be a provider there. And I always do that. And I always make sure for my other athletic trainers in our conference and in the area. I'm like, hey, if you're not able to come to my place, I'm here. Don't worry about it. Just let me know what you guys need. I'll take care of it. So I think a lot of those things are really kind of the best preventative standpoints, as well as you said, just finding some hobbies, some things that you enjoy doing that is your own, and scheduling time specifically for that. I love to read, so I read as much as I can, and I'm a big Marvel fan, so watching Marvel movies and stuff, like that's my, that's the kind of stuff that brings me joy and kind of helps, take some of the edge off of everything. So.
Okay, well, I first have to say thank you for another Marvel fan on here, because I'm huge Marvel, huge Marvel fan. Actually, let me take that back. Huge comic book fan. But I've actually found, for me, the best preventative for me is just to say the word no. I have great AD. I have a great principal. Like this year, they tried to make sponsors. So I work at a high school. And so they're trying to make me help with prom and concession stands and things like that. And I just say no. I just tell them, look, I've already got treatments in the morning. I've got practice till 6 a.m. I don't know when you want me to help with the concession stand. But I mean, like, another great thing is I'm lucky enough to have a principal, so I can bring my dog up here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, making sure. I have kids walking in and people walking in, so I just wanted to make sure you guys could hear me. I bring my dog up to work, and it's the best thing ever. If you want to see who the best ACL patient is, have your dog get an ACL surgery. She's doing great. My kids, I have 2 kids that got ACLs, and they love working with my dog because she's going through the same kind of thing. She's working on range of motion. She's doing, to me, it helps burnout because I get to have my best friend with me. But I think prevention probably for me is just just it's your life, not your principals, not your ADs, not your coaches. It's you.
Yeah, I agree. I've been certified for 10 years now. And when I first started out, my girlfriend, who's now my wife, she was in vet school. So I was living up here by myself, no family near here. So I was bored. I lived in an apartment, so it's not like I could do work on the apartment. Yeah. So I wish I had utilized that free time when I didn't have to come in, when the expectation for me to come in 7 days a week didn't exist, because it was one of those, like, I had the inherent need to take care of others, and I had nothing else better to do. So yes, I did come in, and my mindset was grind it out when I'm younger, because if I'm going 100 miles per hour for so many years before I'm married, before I have kids, and when those steps in my life come and I get to step back, it's like, okay, Ed's going 98 miles an hour. Now he's going 96 miles an hour. But no, it's still like, no, Ed, we need you at 110 miles an hour. And it's kind of hard to set that boundary because I didn't say no. And the idea of saying no is great, but it is an extremely hard concept.
Yes.
So.
Let's see. Am I muted? No. Okay. What would you say if you're trying to prevent things, but what if someone goes, "Hey, do you know what? I'm already burnt out." What's the advice for the person that's already past the tipping point and they're already low energy, having to convince themselves to come into work or laying in bed, like, oh.
Yeah. So with me, with burnout, like, when you read the articles, and I nerded it up and I read the NATA position statement on work-life balance just to kind of refresh everything. And it's like, when you hear about burnout, you think of the worst of it, where it's like you lose interest, you're apathetic towards everyone, everything. And I wouldn't say I've had what is defined burnout. I've had times of high stress, low rest, frustrated, but I don't think it's ever really affected my attitude and towards how I want to treat and how I treat my athletes. I might just be a little grumpier than I like to be. So with me, it's one of those I've powered through, knowing like, hey, I got 3 weeks left. I know I'm miserable. I know it's going to not get easier, but think of it. And that was early on. Now that I have my wife, we vent to each other because our jobs are very stressful. So having that outlet's nice, but it gets a little stress in our house because like we're both dealing with it. In all honesty, when we finally bought a house, that was very helpful because I did a lot of work. I did a lot of drywalling, painting. So that when I was getting stressed out, having that outlet where I just kind of shut off and just like, oh, I need to focus on this. What was this measurement? What's that measurement? Did I miss a spot? Everything like that. It distracted me. So I know we talked about having hobbies, but yeah, that's the only thing I could really tell to someone who's already past that point.
Just make it through. You got a couple weeks left. So Dan, what would you say? Indiana in the fall we have football, volleyball, men's soccer, women's soccer, tennis, cross country, unified flag football. What are you going to tell? Like it's September, and you're in the grind, but you're just feeling terrible.
I think when you get to that point, it's beyond. You need more drastic interventions. When you get to that point, you need to take kind of drastic measures. And when you really kind of get into it, burnout and other mental health really kind of back then starts to become a huge major issue where we're really concerned about your actual mental health, not just time management skills. When you get to that level of true burnout, we got to do something about it. Okay. I can only speak from my own personal experiences on that. And my issues with burnout really kind of stemmed from other mental health kind of issues, so to speak. I was going through a period of my life where I was really depressed and having a lot of hard things in my personal life. So my coping mechanism was to bury myself in work. So I just put my nose to the grindstone and just use that as kind of my distraction away from not dealing with the other issues in my life that were starting to go down the toilet. So for me, the best thing that helped me at that point, when I started getting to that point, because I noticed myself getting really upset and irritated with athletes when they just come in, a little thumb sprain, and I'm like, that's what I'm here for. Why am I being irritated with you about it? So then I was like, I need some measures. So obviously I was, going through psychotherapy to help with the other life issues and depression and all that kind of stuff. So I think when you're getting to that point, I think you need to be bold and courageous enough to step into and look at what resources are available at your institution. For us, with Tom and I, we work at a hospital system. We have employee health that has, those mental health resources there for us. A lot of universities, their campus health and counseling center, a lot of times open themselves out to, staff and professors and stuff as well. So I think at that point, you really kind of need some additional help, and as well as just help and support from your colleagues. I think the biggest problem with burnout is we tend to close off onto ourselves and not vocalize it to those in and around us, because we try and just push through, because that's kind of our mentality as a profession. We push through. So,
Tori, what would you say?
Well, actually, I've been doing a lot of talking about this, and burnout, everybody talks about it. We all know what burnout means. We know what to do. But I actually found a term that I like better. It's fatigue. It's really big in healthcare professionals, nurses, doctors, PTs, PTAs, they all feel it. And I feel like this is something athletic trainers get, that we have so much compassion. We care for our job so much. Sometimes we put all of ourselves into it and we burn ourselves out. We get fatigued. And so actually my first job straight out of college, I worked at a high school down in South Texas. It was a big 4A school. Football is life. Think Friday Night Lights to the extreme. So we had football, we had cross country, we had volleyball, we had wrestling going on, we had, club sports going on, and it was me and another athletic trainer, and we were the only ones, and it got crazy, and I got to the point where I was what most people think burnt out. I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. I didn't want to eat. I didn't any of that kind of stuff. And I just sat and I wrote in my journal and I said, why am I an athletic trainer? Why am I doing this? And I couldn't really think of, an answer. I didn't have my why or why I loved my. And then one day I had an athlete come in, and she had torn her ACL. She'd been 6 months in. Doctor was giving her all this negative news, hey, you may not play the same way you did before. You had a college scholarship, or you may have just lost, just a lot of negative stuff. So I sat down with my athlete and we talked about all the positives, hey, you got ACL surgery, but it's not that big of a deal. We'll come back, we'll play, you'll get your college. I mean, she just broke down in tears and she was so happy. And she said, Coach Moore, you're awesome. Thank you so much. And that right there I found was my why. That was why I loved my job. Just thinking about me helping these kids out of the depression they have or any problems they have, it like renewed my energy. And now every time I think about my job, I sit down every day and I'm like, what was one good thing that happened today? If anybody follows me on my Twitter, they see all the sarcastic posts I post on there, my quote of the day from my athletes. But that helps me get through the day. If it weren't for my kiddos, my students, my principals, I don't think I would have ever come out of it. So I've learned to rely on people, have them tell me, hey, you're a great person. And I take that to heart, not just a little, oh, that's a side comment. They tell that to I write it down and I remember it. I remember it 5 years later. My first job was 5 years ago. And I still think back to that athlete. And sometimes I open up that journal. This is what I wrote about that day. And this is why I do my job. I get through the tough grind for this.
All right. So some strategies overall we had. Find some hobbies. Do whatever you can to prevent it. Get a network. Don't just keep it in. Mental health. Work-life balance. I like to call it the waves. We start out with balance, but summer is kind of low and fall, winter, it's a wave. I like that terminology.
Yeah.
And just being open and remembering your why, I think purpose, that's a great thing. Is there anything else we want to add before we wrap this up?
I think even going to the mental health aspect, even if you're not at that point, I've been to a therapist just to get someone from outside of my life that wasn't going to try and tell me what I should do, because it's easier for when I'm talking to mom or dad or my sisters or some of my best friends, just say no. It's like, look, you guys don't work athletics. It's a different beast. I work when everyone's watching TV. Okay, so I enjoyed it. And even though I wasn't to a point where I thought I was at a point of no return, just being able to talk. And I went to a conference this summer, and the woman who organized it referred to therapy as a facial for the brain, which I thought was a really cool saying, because it's not, it might not be the most necessary thing, but it's just something that makes you feel good after, and it kind of rejuvenates you and takes a weight off you. So I fully agree with that. It's just the state in a country with mental health is just way behind, and it's difficult. When I was looking for a therapist, it took 7 weeks to find someone who was available. So it's just the state, and it's I wasn't even a high risk for anything, obviously. So that's my 2 cents on that. But.
All right. Anyone else? If not, we're going to end the video.
I would say I just think the last thing, for athletic trainers, nobody knows our world better than us. So really kind of cling to your colleagues that are, in your network or in your conference or whoever, mentors, stick close to them and have a good, open, honest communication with them on how you're feeling. And even if it's just, periodic check-ins, how are things going, and be honest and upfront and real about it. So I think that's something that's huge. I think we as athletic trainers, I think it's getting better. I think that's something we also need to kind of consider as well.
Yeah, I guess I can add one more thing is you look on all this social media or a lot of things that people are saying or talking about, and there's a lot of negative stuff. I think the more negative you think, the more your mindset's going to become negative. So maybe if we try to keep things positive, light, airy, fun, it can help with the job. 12-hour days, they're a grind, but being able to have fun with your job, it makes it a little bit easier. Even if it's only 10 minutes a day or 20 minutes a day, maybe take a break during the day, watch your favorite show if you can. That's how but I mean, just try to break up the monotonous grind, the same thing every single day. That can help.
Well, thanks for joining us, Dan, Ed, Tori. I really appreciate you guys coming on for this topic, and I'd like to have you on for future topics. I don't know what topic 3 is yet because I haven't put a poll out, but we'll find out next week. And thanks for taking some time to talk about some burnout and how to prevent it and how to try to get out of it if you fall into that hole.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks a lot.